Today I wanted to talk about how Kenyan men raise their sons in comparison with how foreign men raise their sons. Now when you look at this picture, you can see this is the picture of a small boy, and he's acting very aggressive towards the security forces. And you can see a lot of courage, maybe a little bit of foolhardiness in the boy's actions. But this photo captures something that I think is missing in the Kenyan male psyche. Now, you can clearly see that this child has been brought up to be a man, to be very masculine, to understand that there are opposing viewpoints and you should fight for your viewpoint. And he's displaying almost no fear towards the security forces. In other words, this small boy appears to will grow up to have a lot of critical thinking skills. He will not follow the herd of sheep as they are given instructions from on high. And that is a very masculine behavior, and it is such kind of behavior that causes nations to become successful when people are broadly critical thinkers and not easy to control, willing to explore new things, and willing to reject the old. That's a very good combination for becoming productive and inventive, because to become inventive, you must always be willing to challenge the status quo. You must always be willing to reject the orthodoxy. And the more compliant a population is, the less inventive it generally is, because you need this sprinkling of rebelliousness, especially within the male population, in order to accomplish anything that is great for a nation. Now, this child, the way this child is behaving, for me, it's very beautiful. It's something to be emulated. Now, compare this other picture of these Kenyan boys, and you can see that they're being induced to worship European statues as God. They're being told, don't use your brain. Don't question how did a European end up becoming God. Don't question how come the idol you're worshiping doesn't look like you. It's the sort of religion that grinds out the functioning of the brain. And they're on their knees. I want you to notice, they're on their knees. African men are always on their knees. Think about that. And then compare with the previous picture. That small boy was not on his knees. He was facing off with authority. In this other picture, the African boys are being trained to be on their knees, to never question authority, especially foreign authority. Never question the Mzungu, because the Mzungu is also God. And we see the economic implications in majority third world countries. We see the pattern of total foreign domination over the economy. For example, in Kenya, if you go to buy a soft drink, it's an American company. If you want to buy a beer, it's a British company. If you want to make phone calls, it's either an Indian company or a British company. If you get on a car to drive anywhere, that's a Japanese company. If you switch on your TV, whatever you're watching is from the Americans. If you go to church and you need to find a way to go to God, you have to go through a European or an Arab, right? So you can see a pattern of absolute foreign domination over the psyche and the economy of the people. And this is what contributes mostly to the poverty of the country, because if you do not own your companies, if you don't control your corporates, then you're losing money, because when these corporates come to your country, they make money and they repatriate that money to their countries. So what stops third world people from creating their own companies, from creating their own corporates, and then going into other countries and opening up businesses there and bringing back the profits to their country? Money is not made. Only governments can make money, right? For most people, for you to make money or for you to have money, you have to take it from someone else, right? You can't become rich without taking money from someone else. So for the country to become rich, you have to go to foreign countries and take money from them by opening up businesses. So you want to be in a situation whereby you are the person opening up businesses in foreign countries, not you being the person or the nation receiving businesses from other countries, because then they become rich to the same extent that you become poor. When you consider the largest gold mine in Kenya, it's in Narok. Who owns it? It's owned by the British. So how did the British end up owning the largest gold mine in Kenya? It was given to them by who? By Kenyan men who rule the country. right? So why would that happen? It's because when we are small boys, we are trained to worship the Mzungu. Just like these boys you can see in the picture, they're on their knees worshipping the Mzungu. So that when the Mzungu shows up and says, give me your most valuable gold mine, they immediately hand it over. They never resist. But can you see this other boy in the earlier picture? The one who was puffed up against the police. Do you really think, if he grows up, do you really think he would hand over the most valuable gold mine in his country to another man? He wouldn't, because he's a real man. He knows how to defend things. But when you look at these boys who are being brought up to become slaves, they don't know how to defend anything. They know how to get on their knees and be subject to the foreigner. So whatever the foreigner tells them, they will do with zero resistance. Why? They were never trained to resist. They were trained to obey. They were trained to go on their knees, and they were trained to worship the foreigner. And this is a fundamental difference between successful countries and failed countries like Kenya. It all starts with the boys. So how are Kenyan men raising up their boys? They're raising them up to be the next generation of slaves. So we do expect that the poverty that afflicts all aspects of life in Kenya, we do expect that it will continue for a very long time, because there is no new generation that is being trained or brought up to think critically or to resist foreign instructions. And this is why someone like Bill Gates is able to show up in Kenya and give the government instructions that you will feed your people GMO food, and they immediately obey with no resistance. However, I have to say that I'm very impressed by the fact that very many Kenyans have resisted being fed this toxic food. Even when the government is compromised, at least there are segments of Kenya that have a backbone, however small, and they are rising up to resist attempts to get depopulated by our foreign master.